Fawcett.
If I may approach. This time, the state of Gray Judge is a prior record level 1 for the separate crimes against Nation High.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Arbor, do you wish to be heard on behalf of the defense?
Your Honor, first of all, I will extend to the family. There's no question, and I hope we've made that clear throughout the trial, that we've never tried to diminish that this was a tragedy, and that Ms. Hine was a remarkable woman. Mr. Hine was I think a young man with a very promising future ahead of him. He's bright, he's articulate, and they did not deserve to have this happen to them. If it's of any consolation, I read that blog, Mr. Hine. Kept it here. Because I did read into this young lady, and she was a remarkable woman. I wish I could offer words that would make sense of this thing. I've been involved with this case about it, not as long as then, because I came in after the fact, after it happened. So I didn't know Mr. Broyhill before then. All I can offer to Your Honor is this. I know the jury didn't get a chance to hear it, that there are issues involving Mr. Broyhill that go beyond, I think, any of us to comprehend. I think if there's anything involving a person's mind, I think it's the one part of medicine, and I think you've experienced this as well as a jurist, that it's the one thing that we have the least understanding of. There are medical things that we can address a little easier. We know how to fix them a little bit better, and I'm reminded of having heard a doctor once speak at a commencement for young doctors who were about to become doctors, that it is an art. It is not a science. They're still learning things. But I will say this: from the time that I have started, and as you know, Mr. Broyhill has been receiving medication on a daily basis. I have a different client today than I did when these proceedings commenced. How a person gets to the stage he was in when this happened, I don't have the answers to that. I don't think you do, or Mr. Fawcett does, or any of us do yet. I hope someday that we do. I hope someday that we're able to identify these things much earlier in advance, that we don't have these problems, so we don't have things like this happen. But since that is all I can tell you about it, I will just, and since Your Honor has one matter which will result in a sentence that statutorily requires him to spend a life sentence. With respect to the other charges, I know that I could be heard further, but rather than do that, as long as Your Honor stays within the statutory scheme, I don't wish to be heard on that, and I'll ask to be heard after you pronounce judgment for the additional things that we have to do on this matter.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So in our state, criminal cases such as this one are brought on behalf of the people of North Carolina, and that's why, for example, this case is named the State versus Broyhill. And this is so because crimes such as these offenses are violations of the peace and dignity of all the people of this state and all of our citizens. And in this case in particular, the people of North Carolina have been robbed of the life of Jamie Hahn, a person who has done so much good and had so much good yet to do for all of us. So on behalf of the people of the state of North Carolina, I extend to her family and to Nation Hahn our collective sympathy. The people of North Carolina mourn for the loss of Jamie, and we pray that each of you find peace. And Mr. Broyhill, if you'll stand for me, sir. In this case, the jury has returned guilty verdicts for 3 offenses, and I'm entering 3 separate judgments, each of which within the presumptive range. Mr. Arbor, has it stipulated that your client is a prior record level 1 for purposes of felony sentencing?
Yes, sir.
For the first-degree murder of Jamie Hahn, with deliberation, premeditation, and malice, I order you incarcerated for the remainder of your life without the possibility of parole. For the attempted first-degree murder of Nation Hahn, with deliberation, premeditation, and malice, I order you incarcerated for a period of 157 months minimum, 201 months maximum in the custody of Division of Adult Corrections. for the offense of assault with a deadly weapon with the intent to kill, inflicting serious injury, I order you incarcerated for a period of 73 months minimum, 100 months maximum in the Division of Adult Corrections. Each of these judgments are entered separately, and each of these sentences would be served consecutively. Anything further, Mr. Arbor?
Yes, Your Honor. The defense respectfully would ask the court to receive our notice that we'll be appealing this matter pursuant to 15A 1444 subdivision A, and ask that, Your Honor, our client is indigent, so we'd ask that you appoint the appellate defender to represent him in that matter.
All right. Notice of appeal is noted for the record, and the appellate defender is appointed to represent Mr. Broyhill from this point forward.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Arbor, Ms. Elliott. Thank you, Mr. Fawcett.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Anything further for the court?
Not from the state, Your Honor.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're in recess.
All rise. Yes, 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 it's on the Superior Court for County Wakes down, adjourned, signing, God save state and Psalm Court.